A home can be clean and still feel crowded. You can vacuum the floor, wipe the kitchen, fold the laundry, and still feel that small pressure when you step back into the room. Nothing looks especially messy. Nothing is obviously wrong, and yet the space doesn't feel settled. It might be the chair with clothes on it. Not a huge pile, just enough to remind you it's there. It might be a drawer that still opens, but only if you push things down first. It might be a shelf full of objects you don't dislike but don't really notice anymore. Or the hallway, where everything seems to have a reason for being there. But somehow the whole area feels tired before the day has even started. That is often the strange thing about clutter. It isn't always dirt. It isn't always chaos. Sometimes it is simply too many things asking to be tolerated. One useful idea we can borrow from Japanese-inspired home design is not that a home should be empty. That would be too simple, and not very realistic for most people. It's that a home often works better when fewer things are allowed to become permanent. The calm feeling people often notice in Japanese interiors doesn't usually come from expensive furniture, or perfect minimalism, or a home that looks untouched. More often, it comes from restraint, clear transitions, objects that have somewhere to return to, and a quiet resistance to letting every little convenience become part of the landscape. So in this video, we're going to look at 10 things Japanese homes often don't need, or at least don't give too much space to, and why your own home may feel calmer without them. The first thing your home may not need is overflow storage. This sounds almost wrong at first. When a home feels cluttered, the most obvious answer seems to be more storage. Another basket, another cabinet, another box under the bed. Somewhere to put the things that are currently in the way. And sometimes, of course, storage helps. But often, extra storage doesn't solve the problem. It simply hides the decision. Japanese-inspired spaces often begin from a different question. Not, where can I put all of this? But, how much of this actually belongs in my daily life? That question is harder, but it is also more useful. Overflow storage easily becomes a waiting room for objects we don't want to deal with. Old cables, spare bags, half-used notebooks. Things that are not quite rubbish, but not quite useful either. So they sit there, quietly protected by the fact that they have been put away. And because they are hidden, they keep existing without being chosen. A calmer system is to give each category a natural limit. One drawer for cables, one shelf for household spares, one box for seasonal things. Not a vague amount of space that keeps expanding, but a clear boundary. When that space is full, the answer is not automatically to buy a bigger box. The answer is to choose. That small limit takes away a surprising amount of mental load. You stop running a hidden warehouse inside your own home. The second thing your home may not need is too many display surfaces. A side table here, a console table there, open shelves in every room, a little decorative tray that begins with a candle and somehow ends up holding receipts, keys, lip balm, coins, batteries, and something you were meant to post 3 weeks ago. Flat surfaces are useful, but they are also invitations. In a busy home, every empty surface can become a place where unfinished decisions land. You put something down because you don't quite want to decide where it really belongs. Then another thing joins it, then another. And after a while, the surface is no longer just a surface. It becomes a quiet argument you have with yourself every time you pass it. Many Japanese-inspired homes make careful use of empty space. Not empty in a cold or staged way, empty in a practical way. A clear surface says, without words, nothing is waiting here. You don't need to clear every surface in your home at once. That would probably last about half a day. But choose one. The kitchen table, the bedside cabinet, the shelf by the entrance. Let that one place stay deliberately clear. Not because you are trying to be strict, because it gives your eye somewhere to rest. You may find that one clear surface changes the feeling of the whole room more than you expected. The third thing your home may not need is a large number of duplicates. Duplicates feel sensible. Extra scissors, extra mugs, extra towels, extra chargers, extra pens. And there is nothing wrong with having a spare. The trouble begins when spares multiply until the home becomes harder to use. When there are too many mugs, the cupboard becomes awkward. When there are too many towels, the laundry grows. When there are too many pens, somehow none of them are where you need them. Japanese-inspired living often values sufficiency, enough to support the life that is actually happening, but not so much that the objects begin creating work of their own. The question here is very ordinary. How many of this do I really use in a normal week? Not in an imaginary emergency. Not if 12 people suddenly arrive for tea. Just in ordinary life. Keep enough. Keep a sensible spare where it genuinely matters, but let the number be visible and intentional. A home feels calmer when your belongings match the life you live most days, rather than every possible life you might one day have to prepare for. The fourth thing your home may not need is furniture that only proves the room has been furnished. Many of us carry a quiet idea of what a room is supposed to contain. A proper living room has a sofa, a coffee table, side tables, a cabinet, maybe a chair in the corner, something on the wall, something under the window. Before long, the room is full, but not necessarily easier to live in. A small room doesn't become more comfortable just because it has all the expected pieces. Sometimes it becomes harder to move through, harder to clean, harder to settle in. Japanese interiors, especially in smaller homes, often treat floor space as valuable. Not just because it looks calm, but because it gives the body room to move. And movement matters. A room that is easy to move through is easier to tidy, easier to reset, and easier to live in without friction. Before adding furniture, it helps to ask a simple question. What action does this support? Does this chair get used? Does this table help daily life? Does this cabinet solve a real problem, or is it mainly holding things that would be better reduced? Removing one unnecessary piece of furniture doesn't usually create a dramatic transformation. It is quieter than that. But suddenly the room may feel easier to cross, easier to clean, easier to breathe in. And when movement is easier, daily habits become easier too. The fifth thing your home may not need is a complicated organizing system. There is a kind of organization that looks wonderful for about 3 days. Labels, matching boxes, categories, smaller containers inside larger containers. Everything technically has a place, but the system is so precise that real life starts to resist it. A good system should survive an ordinary tired evening. That is the test. If putting something away means opening a cupboard, lifting a lid, moving 2 containers, matching a label, and arranging things neatly inside, there's a good chance the item will end up on a chair instead. Not because you are lazy, because the system asks too much at the exact moment when you have the least energy. Japanese-inspired home systems often work because they are simple and repeatable. Shoes come off at the entrance. Everyday objects live close to where they are used. Cleaning tools are easy to reach. Bedding can be folded away. The action is obvious. The behavior lesson is very plain. If you want a habit to repeat, make the start and the finish easy. So instead of asking, "How can I make this look beautifully organized?" try asking, "How can I make this easy to reset when I'm tired?" Open baskets for daily items, one obvious place for keys. Cleaning cloths near the sink. Laundry bins where clothes actually come off. The best system is not the one that looks perfect when you have energy. It is the one you still use when you don't. The sixth thing your home may not need is decorative clutter that has lost its meaning. Decoration matters. A calm home does not have to be bare. A picture, a plant, a bowl, a small object from somewhere meaningful. These things can make a home feel personal. They can make a room feel lived in the best sense. But decoration becomes clutter when it stops being seen. Many homes slowly collect objects that were chosen at one point and then never questioned again. A candle that is never lit. A framed quote no one reads. A group of souvenirs that once had a story, but now sit together as visual noise. One thing Japanese aesthetics often teaches well is the value of space around an object. A single vase on a clear shelf has more presence than 10 objects competing beside it. You don't have to throw away your personality to create calm. Quite the opposite. Try removing half the decoration from one small area, just temporarily. Put it in a box for a week. Notice what you miss. Notice what you don't even think about. That tells you something. The aim is not to make the home plain. It is to give the meaningful things enough room to be felt. The seventh thing your home may not need is a permanent pile of just-in-case items. Just in case sounds practical, and sometimes it is. A torch, medicine, basic tools, a warm blanket, a few sensible spares. These things can be useful. But many just-in-case items are not real preparation. They are postponed decisions. Clothes that don't fit, packaging from old appliances, random jars, cables for devices you no longer own, gifts you keep because getting rid of them feels unkind. These things cost more than space. They cost attention. They cost effort every time you move them, search around them, or feel that small guilt when you see them. The calmer approach is to separate genuine preparedness from emotional storage. Ask yourself, would I know where this is if I needed it? Would I use it within the next year? Could I replace it fairly easily if I genuinely had to? And perhaps most honestly, is keeping this making my daily life heavier? A home should support the life you are living most days. It cannot do that well if it is crowded by every unlikely version of the future. The eighth thing your home may not need is too much visual information at the entrance. The entrance matters more than we often think. In Japanese homes, the genkan is not simply a place to remove shoes. It creates a small transition. Outside, life ends. Home begins. You do not need a traditional genkan to borrow that idea. You just need a clear threshold. Many homes lose their calm at the front door. Shoes spread out, bags drop, post piles up, coats overflow. And the first thing you see when you arrive home is not rest, but unfinished business. This matters because attention follows cues. If the first cue at home is disorder, the mind starts scanning before the body has even settled. What needs moving? What needs opening? What have I forgotten? What is in the way? A small arrival system can change that feeling. Shoes in one place, keys in one bowl, post either opened or moved to one tray, bags on one hook, coats not perfect, just contained. The entrance should answer a quiet question. Where does the day land? When that answer is clear, the rest of the home becomes easier to enter. The ninth thing your home may not need is a kitchen full of specialized tools. A gadget for one recipe, a cutter for one vegetable, a machine used twice and then pushed to the back. These objects often promise convenience, but over time they can make the kitchen harder to use. Because every tool has to be stored, cleaned, moved, remembered, found. The more tools you own, the more the kitchen asks from you before you have even started cooking. Japanese home cooking often shows the value of a few reliable tools used well. A good knife, a board, bowls, simple utensils, containers that stack neatly. The focus is not on having everything, it is on making daily preparation smooth. Look at your kitchen through the lens of movement. Can you reach what you use every day without moving 5 other things first? Are the most used tools closest to your hands? Are rare tools taking up the easiest spaces? You don't have to get rid of every unusual item. If you love it and use it, keep it. But move daily life to the center. Let ordinary meals become easy. A calmer kitchen is not one with nothing in it. It is one where making dinner doesn't begin with a search. The 10th thing your home may not need is the belief that calm comes after one big reset. This may be the most important one. Many people wait for a free weekend, a burst of motivation, a perfect plan. They imagine calm as a project, something that will arrive after a large effort all at once. But calm homes are usually maintained by small endings. You finish using something, and it returns. You come home, and the bag has a place. You eat, and the kitchen closes down. You do laundry, and the clothes do not pause forever on a chair. These are not dramatic habits. They are small closures. And small closures matter because they reduce the number of open loops your home is carrying. Japanese-inspired living can remind us that discipline does not have to feel severe. It can be designed into the environment. Fewer belongings, clearer places, simpler resets, shorter paths between using something and putting it away. The home becomes calmer not because you keep trying harder, but because there are fewer things asking for effort. So if you want to begin, don't begin with the whole house. Begin with one kind of not needed. One surface that stays clear. One drawer with a limit. One entrance rule. One duplicate category reduced. One piece of furniture questioned. One box of just-in-case items looked at honestly. The point is not to make your home look Japanese, and it is not to copy another culture as if one style could suit every life. The point is to notice a quieter principle. The things you remove can support you as much as the things you add. A home does not become calm simply by holding everything neatly. It becomes calm when it stops holding too much. And sometimes the most generous thing you can give your home is not another organizer, another shelf, or another clever solution. It is a little more empty space. Space for movement. Space for attention. Space for the day to end properly. That is often where calm begins.